Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are coming to you with a 7 Deadly Sins Origins tier list. I'm joined today by none other than the Callum.
Hello, I am here.
You are here. So let's start it off with getting into the tier list. We are going to be talking back and forth about why we think these characters deserve to be in the tiers that they're in. We're going to start from the bottom of the tier list. So in my opinion, bottom of the tier list right now, as of this moment, is most likely going to be Escanor.
I can't lie, I don't think we even need to talk about it. I really don't. I think a lot of these characters are low tiers, and we can just chuck them in. Dredger in.
Yes, I've seen no value in Escanor since the start of the game. He's just basically been...
useless character, not even worth talking about.
So moving on from Escanor, we probably have Dredger joining him in the D tier.
I think like Escanor's just that bad. You can at least run Dredger in a holy team.
We are going to talk a bit more in depth about some of these characters, but with characters like Escanor and Dredger, there is no point. But if we're talking about a character like Tristan, for instance, personally, in my opinion, Tristan deserves to be high B tier. This is because his burst with his dual swords is average, but good for an SR unit. And in the current state of the game, there is no need for a win team because Elaine is the main DPS in a win team, and her DPS is kind of inconsistent. And no one really uses Tristan's greatsword for anything.
Pretty much agree with you. His entire burst requires a support. And a lot of the good bursters are solo bursters, so you can run actual support for damage. B is pretty good for him. A is a bit too high because there's other characters that are just better as a support, and his burst was good early game because he was free, and now everyone's actually got characters. It's just pretty obvious who the bursters are on the team in the game.
So then following on from Tristan, we have the other starter unit for the game, Tiori. Now, again, same situation as where Tristan lies. Early game, she was really good and used because you didn't have any other characters. She's got a heal and she's got burst support for Tristan. But as we progress in the game and characters are now being added, Tiori's value kind of drops. Probably takes high C tier, at best low B tier.
I agree. So I don't mind high C, to be honest.
I'm going to drop her into high C.
That's fair. Look at Hendrickson and Hauser next. They're probably in C tier as well. Well, maybe Hendrickson might be in low B, but...
Hendrickson, I would say, is below Tiori in this tier list because the only real reason people play Hendrickson in a team is because of the healing from his ult with longsword, but that does require the use of magic points, whereas Tiori's heal is just a simple ability, is not the greatest, and there's many other characters on this list that does Hendrickson's job, but better.
I think they nerfed him because I think he used to buff darkness damage in the beta.
Yes, he did.
Now he doesn't do that, so he was only used for healing, but as a 4 cost. But then when they figured out that he doesn't do what he used to do for darkness damage, he's just fallen off completely. He might even be worse than Dredger because he's not even used in the team at all.
We can put him lower than Dredger because Dredger does have a good rotational cycle within a holy team.
Maybe. I just personally think he's used for a heal, and you're given one for free. You have a selector for the better healers, even as a replacement, because you're not really struggling.
Moving on up the list, we've got Hauser. Now, Hauser, again, is in a bit of a rough spot, and it's all because the main thing you want to run Hauser for is your win team. But again, Elaine's wind attribute is so unreliable. I was in the middle of building win team and I actually built all these characters, and Elaine's ability is just so inconsistent to the point that if you're fighting on any terrain where your enemy is standing above you, your abilities ain't gonna track to the enemy, but instead they're gonna go through the object that's in front of you. His only support comes from resistance down in the win team, but no one is actually gonna be using the win team right now. I would still probably put him above Dredger, but I wouldn't value him more than Tiori in the current state of the game. Now, Dreyfus. I have never seen anything good from this guy. The only thing good about him is that he can break ores in one hit. He honestly deserves to be with his son down in D tier.
So I completely forgot about him.
We're going to end this conversation with a father-son D tier placement, I guess.
He actually doesn't buff anything, even with his Earth. He's just used for a character slot at this point.
Now, moving forward to Gilfunder. Gilfunder is 1 SR. I would not be upset by putting low A tier or even very high B tier. The fact that he is the only burst for the Lightning team right now, but not only is he the only burst, he actually does his job very well considering he's just an SR unit.
Do you think he's better than Tristan in terms of bursting alone?
Yes, Gilfunder can burst alone.
He's definitely the low A to them, better than Tristan. Because Tristan requires support, and if he doesn't require it that high, obviously he's got Drake as the main DPS that also does a lot of burst anyway, so it kind of works with the team. I like low A tier for this one.
Unpopular opinion for a lot of people, but Slater.
The GOAT has to go in high A, right?
His kit is actually not bad. His kit is okay. But the simple fact is there is no reason to use this guy over the likes of Manny. But for the sake of his kit and the debuffs that he has within his kit, I would be happy just putting him above Gilfunder.
I'll put him above Gilfunder. Why is he stronger than Manny, man?
He's not stronger than Manny.
Why is he not stronger? I think they're both put in basically the same amount of crit stuff altogether.
It all comes down to the rotation of your gameplay, and with Slater, after getting the burst, having to take these extra 3 to 4 seconds to pump off your first ability to be able to hit the crit resistance down, when Manny can just come in, spam 2 abilities and get back out within a second. It's more beneficial to Manny. And plus, when you get Manny at 5 potential, she also adds an extra 15% critical damage in her Draco Priestess. And again, her Draco Priestess becomes a larger ability as well. So you've got a lot more space to work with.
Well, so we're taking low potentials into account here then.
And we've got to take potentials and at least take up the 5th potential into account, because most free-to-play players can get up to 5 potential. After that is a bit less in the free-to-play players' hands and more into the whales like us. Going on from this, the only SR unit we actually have left to put into this tier list would be Bug. Isn't a great character, but he works with Meliodas. Being one of the best DPSs in the game is kind of important to have a good supporting unit to be able to plow out that DPS even more. So in terms of Bug's kit, 2 of his weapons are basically useless, but his book brings value. His grimoire brings value in a team for Meliodas. So just on this basis, I would be putting Bug in A tier. I could roll with high B.
The reason for high B is that he increases darkness damage and for melee, but that's all he does. And people aren't even running Bug with the best melee team. They're running Daisy instead of Bug, because the whole point of Bug is to combo ult, obviously, with melee Bug for the darkness burst. But you can combo ult with melee Daisy, which decreases the crit resistance, and that's what people use more than Bug. And it still applies the darkness burst like Bug.
I can definitely get behind putting him in high B. Like, I personally myself, I don't use Bug in my teams. I'm looking like with my melee, I like to play Manny, I like to play Elaine. I'm always got my magic points. This works for me. Bug might work for other people, but this is a tier list of our opinions.
I just think he requires the combo ult, which is 6 magic points, and Daisy's combo ult is just more valuable.
So going forward from that, we are now in the
SSR
territory of SSR.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to start with the GOAT, the Gila. Now we are doing a tier list pre-Escanor release. So we've got to rank Gila without thinking that Escanor is going to be coming in the next banner or maybe future banners. So keeping this in mind, in terms of the DPS that Gila puts out, and the fact that her other 2 weapons are basically not used really all that much, she's probably bottom of A.
For B, I'm fine with that.
But obviously, after the Escanor release, this is subject to change, because then her sword and shield is gonna be very useful thing to have with the 30% extra fire damage, not fire attack, but fire damage.
I personally think the fire team just sucks at the moment.
It
without
does.
Escanor, because the only character that buffs fire is Sword and Shield Gila, but the only DPS for fire right now is Gila on Lance. It's so goofy. It's like with the Earth team when you're playing Diane, and you want to run Diane on Axe for the damage, but then who's bursting unless you do combo ops.
Fire team is very weak at the moment, and Escanor will be the saving grace for fire team and make it a bit more viable. It would just be nice to then follow that with a new consistent burster for the fire team. But moving from fire, after fire there comes ice. Unpopular opinion against certain people, but I'm just gonna say it. Jericho is now top of A tier, and that's simple. And the reasoning behind it is because the game is no longer reliant on clearing easy bosses all day. We have Abyss mode, and in the current state of the game, with Olgot and Gila being the Abyss bosses, Diane is just a lot better in bursting. She has a quicker burst on these bosses because the bosses are weak to her element. So this automatically places Jericho down a tier, because Jericho doesn't perform this well in Abyss, and no one's going out to farm hell anymore. You do Olgot, you're not doing hell, you're doing Abyss.
To be honest, Jericho's bursting is obviously heavy on backstabs. That's just different to Diane as well. Diane just can punch them for burst, and sometimes the backstabs bug out and you don't always teleport behind them, and I guess it can be slow sometimes, even though her burst is technically faster than Jericho's. But in the current meta, Diane clears 100%.
Which also comes to the point that Drake is probably below Gila in B tier.
Really?
His DPS isn't all that. I've spoke to other streamers that have played this character. I personally don't own him, but I've spoken to other people that has played this character, and they all say that his damage is not it. He's not exactly the greatest character. Yeah, I can't really have much of an opinion on this, but I would say he's either below or just above Gila. But I'm saying below because we know what's coming soon.
He's more of a sub DPS and burst at the same time. He puts the electric swords around his teammates on his longsword, and obviously you can swap around to characters to deal the damage, but his damage in itself isn't as high as others in the current game. And he obviously helps with burst with Gilthunder, even though Gilthunder can put in work in himself.
Where's your comfortable placement, above or below Gila?
Would you put him lower than Gilthunder in itself?
Yes, because the simple fact that these guys are here to do different jobs. Gilthunder is there to burst, and Gilthunder's burst is good in comparison to the likes of Tristan, to the likes of Tiori, and these other characters. Gilthunder has a very good burst for being an SR character. When you look at Drake, people say, Greatsword Drake, DPS, DPS, but he just doesn't do all that. Even his burst is not as great as Gilthunder's burst. So there's no reason for him to actually be above Gilthunder in this list. Gilthunder just brings more value to the table than what Drake does.
And the damage isn't high enough, similar to Gila. They're pretty similar in a way. I see a lot of people use Sword and Shield Gila for at least barrier, if anything.
And we know what's to come, so we know what we can expect and how this is going to play with Gila in the near future, which we will do another tier list for that, of course, but we can also touch base here with it as well. We're just not going to let this influence the tier list too much. But moving on from Drake, because we don't want to sit on Drake for too long, we have King. Now...
Sorry, can I start off King?
Go for it.
I feel like everyone downplays him a lot. And even though I play Earth as a main team, I think his different kits and the variety he has makes him higher than definitely the current SSRs on this right now.
I'd put him above Slater and Gilthunder. I wouldn't put him above Jericho.
No, I wouldn't put him above Jericho either.
This being value of King is actually, like Callum said, it is actually underrated. His book does a very nice heal with obviously defensive buffs. His wand gives a lot of value into the Earth team with the increased earth damage that it gives, but his staff. Now, you want to talk about his staff. Passive that is Gore. Full Bloom. This ability is actually really good, considering the amount of hits he actually gets off in abilities, because his abilities end one-hit abilities. They're multiple hit abilities, which gives extra stacks of Full Bloom. And then when hitting Full Bloom, the damage you can actually output with King is really nice. I've seen, well, one of our friends play a Holy team, and it actually does quite a good amount of damage.
Obviously, we're not defending the fact that he's obviously not the best damage dealer currently, or anything like that, he might not even be in the top 3, to be honest. But he has a huge variety. Every single one of his weapons are usable. His healing's just been overshadowed by other characters, like Diane, mainly as the main one on Nunchucks and Gauntlets. He has high defensive increases. He helps defense a lot. And a lot of the Earth team, especially Diane as well, also scales off of defense a lot. He really fits the teams he's on and works them really well, especially in his potentials where it just increases the buffs given. But I wouldn't mind even putting him above Jericho, even though Jericho is like one of the best bursters. The amount of variety he has, the amount he puts to the table in different teams and not just one. I think Jericho just doesn't do enough on her other weapons, and she's not really working with burst, and Earth is currently top meta or even top 2, depending on how you're feeling. I'd put him above Jericho.
I could get behind it, and we could say that these two could be interchangeable in a way.
Fine too, yeah.
Because obviously in the lower tier bosses, so for the newer players, Jericho is going to give them easy time in the game. You pull Jericho when you start the game, the rest of the game up to Abyss is easy mode. Like Jericho melee, everything blows up. It's just done. So we could say that these two units are interchangeable for the difference between a new player that's just starting the game to a more experienced player who actually understands how to play rotations in a battle and can actually perform with these rotations. But moving on from King, what about his little sister? Now, Elaine. I've had arguments and arguments in the past about Elaine's value in a team in every aspect, even before Earth became one of the best elements to use. And I've always said that she is above Jericho in a tier list. And people's always disagreed with me. But today we're finally going to talk about why Elaine is above Jericho in A tier. And that is simply because Jericho was the best at what she does, which was bursting, but there was another option. Now, Elaine is not just good at one thing, but she's good at all 3 things. She is the best wind DPS. There is no other wind DPS right now that can contest her. And she has one of the best supporting kits in the game when everyone is reliant on dual ults and burning magic points as quick as they are. Then Elaine's passive is perfect because you're gaining 2 magic points for a burst. Oh, and then you can put an outfit on her, which if you activate the burst with Elaine, you get 2 magic points. This is just more valuable.
That's literally, it's 4, just straight 4 magic points. It's crazy.
This is more valuable than having Jericho burst when there's other characters that can do the job of bursting. Some might take a little bit longer than Jericho, but my personal opinion, I'd rather be walking into my boss fight with the ability to have 4 magic points, which allows my Meliodas to ult straight away whenever I want, than walking into a fresh boss fight and have 0 magic points and have no magic points when I'm trying to do my Meliodas combo.
Obviously, you need to play it right because the amount of burst she increases herself isn't crazy, but the main burst spike that she does is probably the swapping. If you're able to time it right or just know when to do it, you can tag skill into her with any of her weapons and you can just burst. And you get all those magic points and then you can go crazy with your DPS. Probably the best support burst, and it can actually allow some characters to burst on their own.
So, now we come into the big 4 characters of the game. So, let's first off start with Mani. By far, the best support unit in the game. The fact that she can increase a unit's crit damage by 45% of potential 5, but also leave a holy dot on the enemy with punishment, and the quick rotations between this character to other characters with the bonus of 25% magic charge in efficiency is just too much. She legitimately gives everything except for burst efficiency, but you don't need burst efficiency because you've got characters like the next one we'll speak about that does it without the need for burst efficiency.
She fits every team. You could just plop her in, and her area skill for the crit damage Draco Priestess is huge, and you can even have a teammate put it down if you're playing with more than one, and then you could have an entire area around the boss that's just providing its buff constant.
So
it's definitely the best support, and she can obviously work as a DPS with the ice team, but that team needs a bit more work than just Jericho and her.
But hopefully sometime in the future we'll get Merlin and everything for ice will be good.
Yeah, pretty much.
So going forward from that, we're now going to speak about the GOAT, Diane. Now this is literally a character that can do everything else that Manny doesn't do. She can burst, she can heal while she's bursting, she can do insane DPS with her axe, she's got insane healing and barrier potential with her nunchucks. There is nothing that this character does not do that a DPS character or a burst character should be able to do. She is by far the best character, probably one of the best.
Literally the only thing wrong with her is how long the charge up her DPS requires to deal damage, and you need the enemy to stand still, which is something that does not happen in any boss fight other than maybe the world bosses. But when she does get the hits off, or there's a stun going on, then she's hitting like crazy. Especially with the support, that the Omega stun support Daisy does with Grimoire.
Now we're gonna come to the point that is gonna cause some arguments. So, we have Daisy, and we have Meliodas. Now we all know that Meliodas is just built for raw DPS. All 3 weapons is built for raw DPS. But we both know that these units, we all know that both of these units are S tier units. Now the position that they go in is something to be discussed. Because Meliodas, of course, is a triple DPS character. He does DPS on any weapon you play with. Then Daisy does DPS on a weapon, and she is arguably one of the best supports alongside Manny in the current game because of her Grimoire and the fact that she reduces so much crit resistance by just dropping flowers and then auto attacking once or twice to put, I think it's called electromagneticist or something like that.
But it depends, like, who do you think is at the top, Cosa?
Personally, I think Meliodas is in the top spot still, but I'm a bit biased because I'm a Meliodas glazer. So I guess if we really want to take this somewhere, we could, because I personally know, Carl, that you think that Daisy is on top.
There may be a bit of bias there too, based on the fact that I used the team.
So the best way to settle this is to say that these 2 units are once again interchangeable, and we'll let you guys in the comments decide who's better.
On a real one though, they're both broken. Meliodas, you turn your brain off and you spam QE with longsword, and that just you spam damage. Daisy's probably, the reason why Daisy's probably the best, in my opinion, is because her entire weapon kit is its own thing and is used. Like, Meliodas is using Daisy Grimoire in his own team because Daisy Grimoire constant stuns all Abyss bosses even though they're weak. She constant stuns Orgot pretty much, and people are speedrunning only because Daisy herself is insta-stunning constantly this boss. Wind weapon isn't that crazy either. Obviously it's crazy for the crit chance when the wind team is used, but the wind team isn't used. It's not strong enough. But what she does for the wind team, providing increasing the crit damage, doing all that stuff, and her versatility as a character in general just makes her better than Meliodas.
And if you want to talk a character's full kit, then you could argue that Daisy would be above Meliodas, just for the simple fact that her adventure skill allows you to basically craft more platinum per day. And as we all know, platinum is a very valuable resource that's needed to be able to craft any high-end gear. So this kind of does set her aside a bit. But again, I'm biased and I'm saying Meliodas is top.
I'm just very curious on how his damage alone makes him the best in the game, even if you say you can interchangeable it. But with all these different things that Daisy can do, hit bosses for 900k with the Earth team, even though her rotation's slightly slower because you have to do all this swapping, and Meliodas is very 1-2 simple.
And that's one of the reasons why Meliodas would stay in this top spot, because you said it yourself, Daisy takes thought and rotation within her Earth kit, whereas Meliodas just thrives off Diane sitting there, bursting, Manny dropping Draco Priestess, switching to melee, press one button and then spam the next button till the burst is ended and end out with an ult. And you've dealt just as much damage as what Daisy's gonna deal after her whole rotation. It's just melee is gonna get there quicker.
I don't think that he does.
This conversation could go on a long time.
True.
So
We can stick it to interchangeable.
we can stick it with interchangeable because melee is my top one, Daisy is your top one, and then we let the comments decide the rest.
I've said my piece, to be honest.
They've heard arguments from both sides, but to end out the video, we're just going to give a little thank you to Cal for joining us today. He didn't have to do that. And this is our final 7 Deadly Sins Origin tier list. And if you like the content that we're putting out, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.